Today we're going to be installing the factory OEM Performance Pack oil cooler on my non-Performance Pack 2024 Mustang GT. So this is all OEM parts. I ordered it through Ford, and usually the oil cooler on the Performance Pack models, they mount right here. They're right behind this vent right here, which is blocked off right now because I don't have the oil cooler, but we're going to remove that backing plate and all that stuff. I'm going to show you guys how to install all this stuff. I think I'm the first one to do this, at least on the internet, that has posted a video on how to do it, because the oil temps on these cars get crazy hot. Like, I've seen it up to 275 degrees, and around that temp it starts pulling timing and it reduces the shift points and all that type of junk. So we don't like that, we don't want that. Even just cruising on the highway just for a little bit at 80 miles an hour, my oil temp is at 230 degrees, and like, that's not hot. I know that's not hot, but just cruising on the highway and like 80-degree weather, that is a little too hot for just cruising. I have buddies that have beat the crap out of their cars, and they said, oh, my oil temp got up to 230. And I'm like, mine's at 230 just cruising. We're gonna be installing this oil cooler. I'll show you guys all the part numbers and everything to do this. So this is everything that you need to install this oil cooler. Obviously, here is the oil cooler itself. You have the air duct that goes right behind, that connects to the back of this vent, so it directs air right into the oil cooler itself. You have the oil filter adapter. This is the one that you need. This is off the Performance Pack. You got the oil cooler lines, you got the bracket for the oil cooler, and then you got all these bolts, and I'm just gonna change out the filter and probably gonna need a quart of oil. And then I made a run to Home Depot because I forgot to actually order a bolt, which I'll just put the part number for that bolt I missed in the description. All these part numbers will be in the description below, so you can copy and paste, but this is just the Home Depot stuff. But this should be everything you need, and I'll show you guys how to do it. So step one, get your car in the air. I'm lucky enough to have these quick jacks, which make this a ton easier, but get your car in the air safely so you can get under it for a pretty extended period of time here. First off, we're gonna take off the wheel. It just gives you more access, and then we're gonna have to remove the fender liner, which when that part comes, I'll show you guys how to do all that. And then we're gonna have to take off the under tray, and I think another under tray as well. Hopefully we don't have to take off the bumper. I have no idea yet. We will find out. This is my first time doing this. No instructions online. These are your instructions from my video. So now we're gonna take off the fender liner here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 push pins, and there might be some underneath here as well. And then there's also a 7mm bolt back there, and another one right here. And there's also a 7mm bolt right here as well. Another push pin, and I think that's it. I got all the clips and 7mm out of the fender liner, but we're not gonna take it out just yet. We're gonna take off the underbelly pan first, and I'll go show you guys that. So if you've ever done an oil change on your S650, you know that you have to take off this big under shield right here that is right by the oil filter. So we're gonna have to remove this. It's like 20 something 7mm bolts and like 4 push pin clips, and it gives you access to the oil filter and the oil filter adapter, which we will be replacing. So get this off. So here is your oil filter, and then this is your oil filter adapter all over here. There's 4 bolts you have to take off, and this is the oil pressure sensor gauge right here, which is covered by this, and then you can just pull that back and pull off the sensor. It's just a clip connection, and then you got to pull this off right here. This holds the wires in place, but 4 bolts, one right here, one right there, one right here, and one right behind the alternator, which is going to be a pain to get to, but I think you can get it off. It's going to be a tight spot, but you can reach it with some extensions. So we're going to try to remove all that, and I think we got to remove the oil filter first. So we got the oil adapter and filter off in one piece, couldn't get that off, so we just decided to take the whole thing off. So it is possible. This is it, and here is the new one. Obviously way bigger, and then these are where the oil cooler hoses go out into the oil cooler and cools the oil. So once we got that off, I removed the fender liner, and you have easy access. There is a few 6mm bolts right here. I think 3 of them holding his back plate in, and then you can take that off and put the air duct on. But a little confused right now because this came on the new oil adapter here. Took that off. There looks like there'd be Loctite in there, which is fine, but then there's this like jelly almost, which might be going up this whole tube, but we really don't know. But there's no way you can dig that out. I don't think we dig it out. I'm actually asking my buddy right now. He works at Ford. We're gonna see what he says, but I don't think we dig that out. So there's 4 6mm bolts behind that vent, and now you take off this cover, and you have all this room over here to add the oil cooler. So I ended up taking off the belly pan underneath the car, to fit the oil lines here. They go, I'll start from up here. I haven't attached the oil adapter yet. It connects to the oil adapter, goes over the K-member, goes over here, and then wraps around and connects to the oil cooler. So you take this little clip and it goes right into here. I just gotta line it up perfectly. So we're just gonna leave that in there. It's pretty deep. There's no way a tech would receive this part if that part was faulty on someone's car and say, hey, I'm gonna remove all this stuff. Like, how do you even remove that? So we're gonna leave it in, probably just drive for like 100 miles, maybe do an oil change just to get all that out. To install the oil cooler itself behind this duct, I just screwed in the duct. It's just 4 bolts, 7 millimeters. You attach the front bracket to this bolt, so you take this out and put it in, and then the other top bracket goes into right here. So now we do have the oil cooler assembly in. This bolt's a little hard to get to. One of these to get behind there, it is a 10 millimeter, helps a lot. And then connect the front bracket, like I was saying, to this bolt right here, right behind the headlight. I took that out and put it back in. Just gotta kind of torque it down a little bit more. There's a bracket that connects from these 2 lines and goes over to the subframe over here. We're going to get a bolt from Home Depot that goes through this whole thing, and then we're gonna put a nut on the top because for some reason it goes in that second hole right there and there is no threadings. So we're gonna get a long bolt, put it through there, and then bolt it through the top. Second day now, that oil adapter housing that connects to the block of the motor, oh my God, those bolts are a pain to get in. Took 4 hours. There's 4 bolts, so 1 per hour. Super hard to get the oil adapter flush and not cross thread the nuts and the bolts. So super hard, that was a pain, took forever to do, but we got it done. Now we're gonna connect the oil cooler hoses to the oil adapter, which I'll show you that right now. So you can actually reach them from the engine bay. Just connect those in right there. It's right under the sway bar and right under that belt right there. It's super close, but it's not touching. Just make sure they're seated in there, and then you get your bolts, and it is 22 foot-pounds of torque, and they already have some Loctite on them and should be good. Now that you have the oil cooler hoses connected to the oil adapter, 20 foot-pounds of torque, now we're going to install these to the actual oil cooler itself. I'm almost positive that these just slide right on, and then it has this plastic clip that probably goes over this lip right here. I was right, they just slide right on, and then you just slide this plastic clip right over that lip and you're good to go. Now we got to install this bracket. I'm just gotta go around to Home Depot and get some bolt and a nut for that. So if you're like me and you didn't order the Performance Pack fender liner, which I didn't, obviously, we're gonna have to cut holes with the Dremel or something into here so the air flows through the vent, through the oil cooler, and then out in the wheel well. Kind of hard to see on camera here, but I made an outline. It's 9.5 by 9.5. I kind of eyeballed it. As long as we get some air vents going out and get some holes, some slits, it should be good. Also, I know very hard to see, I forgot to show you guys this, but here is my Dremel cut fender liner. I know it's really hard to see. That's what it looks like. First startup, oil pressure looks good at 100. Check and make sure nothing leaks. Checked for leaks, no leaks. I think it's good to go. So after a long time trying to put this oil cooler and oil adapter kit inside my non-performance pack S650 Mustang, it's finally in. I've finally been able to drive it, kind of beat on it, see how it is. Just came back from a drive a little bit ago, checked the oil. I am a quart low, so I'm just waiting for it to cool down, and we are going to add another quart of oil. And I just did an oil change not even a week ago, and I checked after the oil change the dipstick and I was full, and now I am a quart low. On the Ford manual, it does say that if you have the performance pack with the oil cooler, the performance pack gets a little bit more oil than the non-performance pack. So that is a telltale sign that it is working, because how would I be a quart of oil low? I don't burn oil like that. I haven't even put like 500 miles since the last oil change. Last oil change, I did about 4,000 miles on it before I did the next oil change, and I did not burn any oil at all. Maybe a small bit, but not much. So before the performance pack oil cooler, when I was cruising on the highway about 80 miles an hour, I was at about 230 degree oil temp. Now today was a very humid, muggy, hot day. So it was around 217 to 220. So it was a little bit lower. I started beating the heck out of the car. I was just mashing on it, drove in track mode, took corners. I drove the car like how it should, red line, track mode, dropped gears every corner, took corners. I got it up to 252 degrees. Now, if I did that originally without the oil cooler, easy 260, maybe even 270s. So it is working, but also keep in mind the performance pack vehicles get a bigger radiator as well. That is also another play on why it might not cool as much as the performance pack one would from like all OEM, because the performance pack comes with a transmission cooler, engine oil cooler, and it also has the bigger radiator as well. And then if you get the Dark Horse, it comes with the rear differential cooler as well. Since I am a quart low, I'm gonna add the quart, like I said, once the car cools down a little bit, and we'll go back out and do some testing and see if it's even cooler, because the car's a whole quart low. It's kind of a lot of oil. It should be a little bit cooler also when I add the extra quart of oil. I'm not gonna lie, the install was low-key kind of rough. Taking the oil filter adapter off the block, super easy. I actually used an impact because, I don't know, it was kind of difficult to get those off, and you needed a bunch of extensions, and the extension was floppy. So kind of hard to get a good angle, and like I said, easy to take off the oil filter adapter. Putting it back on, oh, it was a nightmare. You really have to make sure you get on the right angle, or else you're literally gonna cross thread the bolt. And if you cross thread the bolt, you're literally going and screwing the bolts into the block. So you cross thread that, you're not gonna have a fun time. Car's not leaking any oil. And like I said, I was driving it like how it should have been driven. Drive it like I stole it, and no oil's leaking. Oil pressure has been good. Definitely think you should add this to your S650. It was about $1,000 out the door, but I had a lot of Ford points. You can also use the Ford points for Ford parts. So that actually dropped it about to $500 out the door. So pretty good deal. Definitely would recommend. These cars get way too hot without an oil cooler, and it's actually kind of ridiculous that Ford even let this slide by, because at about 280 degrees oil temp, 275, 280, the oil light comes on, it says it's too hot, reduces power, and it's kind of ridiculous, but it's Ford. They like to slack, and is what it is. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope this video helped you out with the install and to decide if you want to do this upgrade. I tried my best to show all the parts and how to do it, but I hope it helps, and drive safe.